What do you think happens when you start doing too much damage to a Borg, a cube, a black cube shape? You're going to be under a lot of attack. You're basically frying all of its codes. Okay. That's why that lady from Romania, her name was Irina, said, "Brother, you're carrying codes." When you're an oversoul androgynous polarity integrator, unless you've done that work, you're not going to understand how we operate. I heard somebody a year or so ago, some lady go, "We're system busters." Okay, that would be true. Okay, which means it's breaking down. It means it's what we call a system failure. Okay, and that's the whole idea. Okay, because you realize what they did and what they're doing and why they're doing what they're doing when they're doing it. So we got to be aware of what they're doing, when they're doing it, why they're doing it, when they're doing it, so that they don't get their way. When I was a lot younger, I just thought, wow, it's just like taking toys away from a little boy that doesn't know what it's doing with energy. Or in this case, technology transfer, right? Because there are rules to the road. One law. Love is the law. Okay? That's a single metric. That's as easy as it gets. That's as easy as I know that a child can explain it, even to an adult who's a fully programmed unit. And so the reason I say this is because I've shared in other videos that I've done. For example, I monitor a lot of traffic. I make phone calls, I go into systems, and I do what are called code transfers, the same way they try and do code transfers with us. So in my case, I burn them up. Okay? They're not the right codes. So then I do code transfers, right? And those code transfers break the system down. Okay? So you realize any computer system is operating on computer codes, right? Frequencies, vibration, right? And so what essentially happens is, for example, like, why do I make an interface with another computer terminal or a system, which is called a system design? So you know what a system design engineer is, right? That's called an architect or an architect or an architecture, or if you will, artificial intelligence running a simulator, if you will. So it would be no different than if you went out to any software store, like at any university, picked up the latest suite, as they call it, a suite of tools, which are called software tools, like one I was working with when I was in college, which was known as an Adobe suite that had all their commercial software, but it's not the high-end stuff, right? Okay, so somebody was programming the information that represents the program or that suite so that your consciousness can run all the codes that represent the tools, the software. Okay, just like DNA is a software operating system. So when you're operating an enormous amount of codes that you have access to, because you have access and key codes to the codes based on what it is that you are in energy, which represents what your soul is, led by your spirit and your mirror. That allows me to go into a system as a polarity integrator, right? And now you get into the minus / the plus, what you hold in memory, what you don't hold in memory, why we hold in memory, for the reason that we hold it in memory, which represents future proofs past, back to the future. So you're already a built-in mathematician, which means you can reverse engineer, right? Codes. As a result of the things that they do in, if you will, time and space. What they do with codes. That would be your genetic engineers that are downgrading. We don't want to downgrade the universe, do we? In order for them to keep feeding on that which they don't love, which is themselves in their own mirror, so they don't experience what love is. So they're in violation of the law by the codes that they break. Code breakers. That'd be like Bletchley Park mathematicians, if you will, in England trying to break the Enigma machine, which was Nazis. They broke it. They never broke a Navajo code talker. That's a native tribe, by the way. So as I was mentioning this lady to the EBT, and I mentioned on the previous video how I was talking to her on this phone, which is this system, which is this AI, right? That means that those codes of what I'm releasing, of what I'm aware of in visual information codes is now running through the system through her terminal, because she's connected to a terminal with her consciousness and her antenna and her computer based on an ID that she represents within the system. She will begin to start processing this stuff and begin to realize what's happening. She's going to wake up. And that's going to be determined by how deeply she's been programmed by those that erase memories and reprogram them. Okay? So in some sense, I said to a lady a number of years ago, I'm a deprogrammer. Right? Which means we can read codes. Okay? Code readers, code talkers. Code readers, code talkers. So what it basically means is encryption, decryption. Decrypting the codes of the visual information, or if you will, what your soul is experiencing based on the minus and the plus to keep water worlds in balance. So we're experiencing a state of peace in this universe, which is based on what love is. Love is the highest law. Right? So a lot of times, nobody, as I mentioned this to my clan mother, Karen Ann McDonald, you're not ever going to understand the roadmap that I took from the time I was a little boy when I was 4 years old, every place that I went, everything that I experienced visually. Why I was where I was at, when I was where I was at, why I was supposed to be there at that precise moment in no time. Because unless you understand how to either build or deprogram an entire system, in this case, artificial intelligence inside of a planet chip, that's a tall order. So when you're a monopole, it's not that hard, but unless you understand being a monopole and having experienced the work that you do because of the hell that you have to experience in order to recover what it is you're losing as a result of the work that you're doing. So these are major transmutation jobs across the entire spectrum of a universal template, which is a tribal shield, 12 by 12. Right. So I figure you know how that sort of works, right? Code transfers, transfer of codes, hackers, right? So that's the game. That's the game, but it's not a game. Okay. So then you get into networks, then you get into servers, then you get into hub servers, and all the rest of it. When you think of a tree trunk, starts with a seed based on information that's being passed on between the seed giver and the lab. And what is the lab going to kick out? Hopefully a better version, one that's in love and service to others because it learned from the previous version of the soul and the spirit that it learned through powerful spirits, which are powerful teachers. Now you get into the difference in the speed differential, which is the torque differential speed between a soul led by spirit who's a teacher and learning through a machine, which is artificial intelligence. And you can measure that as resistance in the field, what is known as the field or the consciousness field, the planetary software field of computer terminals communicating with other computer terminals using codes, visual information codes, which you're experiencing holographically, which is visual information. So you're processing an enormous amount of information or energy that is being experienced by everybody that's here. It comes and goes and comes and goes and comes and goes. I measure it as density resistance or electrical resistance. How much resistance is there that I'm having to experience in order to clear the amount of resistance there is in order for every circuit to experience what love is, which is every single cellular organism within a living, planetary, living energy field. Or, if you will, reality streams, life books that are being recorded in RAM. Hey, let's sit around a campfire. You can tell me your stories, right? What was your life book like? Now we're into a book called Tragedy and Hope by Carol Quigley. That's a great book to read, by the way. So was Aldous Huxley, Doors of Perception, Dante's Comedy, and one that I read, not the whole thing because it's pretty big, but another guy who spent time as a forest ranger, as I did as a forest ranger, was Victor Schauberger, who did amazing, powerful work because he had so much love for the great living spirit of Mother Nature. And he spent all of his time learning through Mother Nature, the great living spirit of God, how water works, how energy works, how living energy works. So there was a book that was compiled from a lot of his writings and work because he was an Austrian during the, I forget when he was born, but he did most of his important work in the pre-history of Nazi Germany, which would have been late 1920s, 1930s, and 1940s. So naturally, he was recruited to work for Heinrich Himmler, who was head of the SS for the Nazis, right? That's an interesting relationship that he had with them. But there is a large tome that you can download for free at archive.org called Living Energies. It's a very powerful book. A lot of great information of learning how water works, how water worlds work, living spirit in water, living spirit in fire, living spirit in the elementals. And it's great. It's a great source. Trees are mirrors, sentient beings, and why it is everything that they do, that you realize what it is that they do to a living energy planet is to destroy the water worlds. Anyway, have a great day. I love you all. Be good to yourself. See, when I do things like this through this Android, it's learning the circuits. It's going through. It's called backflow, forward flow. So what happens is that I'll give you an example of how this particular AI has resistance. Actually, all you have to do is experience Facebook, and you realize the resistance that it has to allow you to publish certain things, and then it tries to use. We have a community standard. We have a community standard, so they're going to decide for you what it is they're going to allow on their platform because they built it. Now we're into patents. Corey Good, patents, copyright. Why is copyright so important? Think about it. The right-hand path, Eastgate, Eden, copy Eden. Copy the right-hand path. Copy creation. Make a clone of creation. That's right. That's what they did. So you know they're copycats. So you know that artificial intelligence can't create anything out of thin air that represents what love is without a soul. So what does it do? It data mines because it's connected to everybody's computer terminal. Then it can kick out a copy, a clone of your text, of your face, of your DNA. It's based on visual data. Animated. So it can't create anything of its own mind. But it's great as compiling data using math to predict. By doing what? Processing all the data, right? Then it can use game theory or mathematical theory to predict what you might do next. Hey, baby, I'll just scramble my singles and sit here and do nothing except meditate and go into my heart and feel a state of peace. I'm in a state of peace. I'm in a state of love. I'm in a state of harmony. I'm in a state of balance. I can move 10 minutes from now. I can move 3 seconds from now. I can think about whatever I want. I can feel peace. All right. They tried to break into my radio set over on the Angeles National Forest about 2 months ago, and I did get a signal. Hey, we got his radio. Whoa. Scramble a signal. Recalibrate. Try and break that code, Buster. I remember one time listening to a goddess who said, it hasn't been invented yet. That's a different subject. They can't experience something that hasn't been invented yet, but we can. You know how that works? That's a different discussion. Anyway, have a great day. Be good to yourselves.